Hi, I'm LadyJenevia. Today's video is a review of a new Hulu film called Crush. Hulu granted me access to a press screener so I can talk about it now that the embargo has lifted. Crush will be premiering tomorrow, April 29th on Hulu, so let me just get that information out of the way so you will know where to go and when to watch it. Now, Hulu has requested that reviewers don't overly reveal details about the film's plot and the major beats of the story ahead of its release on Hulu, but I will, in a general sense, say that I found the story to be fairly predictable, but in this case I don't consider that to be something negative because not every film needs to reinvent the wheel. A film like this is more so about how it makes the viewer feel, and in particular, I would say that a film like this is especially targeted to younger teens and adolescents, young sapphics, probably mostly still in middle school and high school. I don't believe this is an audience that you need to stress out with life and death stakes in a story. It's a coming-of-age sapphic rom-com set in high school. I'm going to give an introduction to the film's premise and its main ensemble of characters, and then I will give my largely spoiler-free review. The film stars Rowan Blanchard as Paige. She is an artist, and she is also an out lesbian. Her mother is played by Mullally, who is very supportive of Paige. I would say she's almost comically supportive. You can see a bit of that in the film's trailer.
Well, that's an eraser, so that's not gonna go up there.
Anything's possible.
I would say that Mullally was my favorite performance and character in Crush because essentially she's the comedic side character who gets to say and do a lot of the most outrageous things, while the main ensemble of characters who are in high school are considerably more grounded as characters. Paige has a crush on one of her classmates named Gabriella. Gabriella is on the track team, and Paige ends up deciding to go to the track team tryouts so she can be around her crush more. Gabriella also has a sister named AJ, who is played by Auli'i Cravalho. AJ is also on the track team, and eventually we get a bit of a love triangle going on. I do want to emphasize that it's not an overly dramatic love triangle when we compare to things like the Twilight franchise, which has a lot more hostility in its love triangle. The love triangle in Crush is considerably more, I suppose polite would be the word. I knew there was going to be some sort of love triangle concept in the story going into watching the film for the first time, but when I found out that Gabriella and AJ were sisters, I really didn't want this to turn into some aggressive, hostile situation where you get two sisters constantly yelling and fighting with each other over a girl for the majority of the film's runtime. There is a dramatic narrative in the story, but it didn't do any of the things that I didn't want to see happen in a high school love triangle where two sisters end up being interested in the same girl. That's the most vague way I can explain it without giving away spoilers. Some of the other supporting characters we see in the film are Paige's best friend, Dylan. He was surprisingly fun to watch. When he feels strong emotions, he sometimes switches to speaking Spanish, and I found that to be a nice character detail. He also has a girlfriend whose name I believe is Stacy. The two of them have a minor arc in the film's larger narrative, but for the most part they exist as characters to service Paige's story. Sometimes in media analysis you'll hear the expression the female gaze used. I would say that Hulu's Crush is a film that is good at using either the sapphic gaze or the sapphic perspective, whichever you would prefer to use. More specifically, when it comes to the inclusion of Dylan and Stacy as a couple, I think their relationship and their behavior is sometimes shown as being an example of het couples being annoying because they're doing too much. You're in public. You need to relax. When Dylan and Stacy are first introduced as a couple, I was taken aback. I was watching what they were doing and I was just going, you are in high school, you are children, and you are in public. Where are the teachers? Stop it. Now, straight people, if any of you are watching this review, please don't get your feelings in a twist. I'm not saying outright right now that you're annoying. What I'm saying is that the film seems to say that. Sometimes when you're with each other, you need to just not. There are some other supporting characters at the school. There is the principal as well as Aasif Mandvi, whose name I don't remember, his character name, but he plays the track coach. They aren't that prominent since the focus stays largely on Paige and the other high school characters, but they do contribute to the film's comedy in a way that I found to be fun and enjoyable to watch. Now that I've introduced most of the film's characters as well as the basic plot premise, which is largely about the love triangle, I can give a bit more of my feedback and opinions about the material and the execution. If I had one overall point of feedback to offer about Hulu's Crush without spoiling anything, it would be that this film is really cute. The characters are adorable. I found myself rooting for the main girls. It's a very pleasant watch. It's not overly dramatic or stressful, and I think this is an important distinction to make because a lot of times when there are LGBT plus stories produced by Hollywood, there inevitably ends up being some sort of struggle specifically to do with being LGBT plus. They have to encounter or overcome some type of bigotry, discrimination, or worst of all, violence. I don't know if this is a controversial opinion to have, but I just feel as though there needs to be a lot more fiction produced where your LGBT plus leads are not defined by struggling specifically because of their sexuality or gender identity. People from these identity groups can struggle for plenty of other reasons. I like that in Hulu's Crush, they immediately establish that Paige is not in any way struggling because she likes girls. As an artist, she is struggling to develop certain skills and she wants to get into a specific art program, and she would also, along the way, like to pursue her crush, Gabriella, romantically. But the way that it's presented is no different from plenty of other teen fiction we've seen before where the story is focused on a relationship between a girl and a boy, and one of them will struggle to romantically woo their love interest because they're in high school, and talking to your crush is nerve-wracking.
Hey, are you coming out today?
I've been out for a really long time. I'm extremely gay.
I was actually talking about track tryouts.
Another detail that I really liked about the world building of Crush is that this school is full of LGBT plus characters. You do get to see some of those characters being introduced in the film's trailer, and this clearly shows a shift forward, culturally and generationally speaking. You don't have just a single isolated queer character being surrounded by what are presumed to be all straight peers at their school. It establishes that this is the world we live in, and it also shows that people don't have to feel that they're alone at that age. You don't have to romantically settle for the one other LGBT plus student simply because they also happen to be LGBT plus. It also emphasizes that the LGBT plus community is not a monolith. Not everyone dresses the same or has the same interests or behaves the same. It's a much better approach than the rampant tokenism, stereotyping, and struggle stories that tend to run rampant in LGBT plus media produced by Hollywood. Crush feels like a film that is going to get added to people's lists of comfort watches. When you're sad or you're stressed and you just want to put something on that will make you feel happy, help you to unwind, where you will know that things are going to work out and be okay and you are not going to be emotionally battered to reach the resolution and conclusion of the story, that's the type of film that Hulu's Crush is. Out of everyone in the ensemble of teenage characters, if you force my hand and make me choose just one, I have to say that I really enjoyed seeing Auli'i Cravalho's performance. She comes across as so effortless on screen. It's like she's exactly where she belongs whenever she's on camera. It doesn't even feel like I'm watching acting. I feel like I'm watching AJ as a real person feel and express her emotions. I know I've already used the word cute to describe this film, but I have to use it again. Paige and AJ were really cute together. Because the film isn't overly intense or dramatic or aggressive in its delivery of its story, there was a brief point where I was wondering whether or not I was going to finish watching the film and criticize it for needing to have more drama in its story. But then, because the film is only an hour and a half long, as quickly as I had that thought, I got to the end of the film and I found that I really ended up liking it. We got to the end of the film and I was just so happy for the characters and how things wrapped up for them in their story. Now, don't get me wrong, I love plenty of stories that go big and serve me drama and brutal, over-the-top action. I recently saw The Northman, and that was 2 hours and 16 minutes of brutal, visceral, art house brawling, and I really enjoyed it. But life does not have to exist at just that level of drama and violence, especially in fiction. Sometimes you just want to curl up with a blanket and decompress and watch everything work out in the end for the people people that you're rooting for. And Crush is that type of film. Sometimes rom-coms will serve some sort of emotional gut punch, and that's perfectly fine, but I appreciate that Crush is offering young girls the chance to see themselves explore their romantic feelings for a crush or two, without it being an experience that emotionally batters them. Overall, do I recommend Crush? Yes, I do. In particular, anyone who watched the trailer for this film and was excited to see it because of the premise or the performers or both, I would guess that you're really going to enjoy seeing the film when it premieres tomorrow, Friday, on Hulu. It's a really cute film, and I'm glad that it exists to bring a little more joy into the world. My next video will be on the 365 Days sequel, which I have not watched yet at the time of recording this video, but I am ready for the mess and how much fun I'm going to have talking about that mess. See you in the next one. Bye.